The end of a fierce battle seems to be here, with someone shouting for Fang Yuan to give up the spring-autumn cicada so their death can be quick. Many righteous forces have gathered together just to destroy the demonic lair of this man named Fang Yuan. A silhouette, perhaps Fang Yuan himself, calmly tells the attackers to hand over the spring-autumn cicada for a swift death. One of the attackers angrily tells the old bastard Fang to stop struggling because all the major righteous factions have united to destroy him. Another person screams, calling Fang Yuan a demon, while others glow with blue and orange energy, ready to strike. They accuse Fang Yuan of slaughtering thousands just to refine the spring-autumn cicada, committing unforgivable sins. A woman surrounded by blue electricity expresses deep hatred, recalling how 300 years ago he humiliated her and stole her body's purity. She continues to accuse him, saying he massacred her entire family and wiped out 9 generations, leading to her endless hatred. Finally, Fang Yuan, covered in blood and with glowing red eyes, stands defiant in a dark, stormy landscape, declaring he will see his enemies dead today. The view focuses on Fang Yuan's blood-stained robes as he stands amidst the carnage. A drop of blood hits a pool of dark red liquid, making a small splash, just as Fang Yuan seems to lean forward. As the attackers strike with various colored energies, the view shows Fang Yuan looking down on them. One attacker channels strong blue lightning energy toward him. Another person, clearly wounded and covered in blood, holds out a hand engulfed in orange fire, looking up towards Fang Yuan. A close-up shows Fang Yuan's blood-splattered face, his red eyes cold and unreadable. The image cuts to black, emphasizing the intensity of the previous moment. After 6 hours pass, the scene shows the desolate, bloody ground from an overhead view, with several figures standing around. These figures are scattered around the area where the battle took place, one still surrounded by faint orange energy. The focus shifts to 2 faces, the calm, blood-stained Fang Yuan with red eyes, and an angry-looking opponent who questions what Fang Yuan finds so funny. As the attacker speaks, Fang Yuan's hand makes a swift motion, and narration begins describing a poetic scene of nature. Fang Yuan smiles slightly while the text speaks of the setting sun, autumn moon, and the gentle wind of spring. The narration continues, reflecting that whether one succeeds or fails, looking back leaves nothing behind. Fang Yuan's memories flood his vision, showing that all the memories of his life on Earth suddenly surfaced. The scene briefly shows a modern-day man in an office setting, suggesting this is where his original life was. Bright yellow energy surrounds small, round objects like bubbles or orbs, hinting at something magical. The modern man's memory transitions into a younger man with long black hair falling around him as he reaches out while falling. The young man's memory continues, stating he endured a harsh life for 300 years. He stands by a weathered tombstone in a desolate, leafy environment, looking downcast. The memory continues, adding that he survived another 200 years after that, standing near the large stone. The setting shifts to a dark, blue, watery environment where countless memories buried deep in his heart start to surface. A pale, sad face of a man, possibly Fang Yuan in a past life, is seen underwater with streaks of blood near his mouth. The view returns to the white-haired Fang Yuan, whose red eyes glow as the resurfacing memories play before him. His hand holds a small, bat-like creature, with shadows of many bats lurking beneath him. Fang Yuan stands with his back to the viewer, his long white hair flowing dramatically. A brilliant starscape appears as the thought bubble states that more than 500 years of his life flew by in the blink of an eye. A dark panel with text stating, "In the end, I failed." A close-up on Fang Yuan's mouth as he reflects that to be a demon means being merciless, cruel, a killer, and a destroyer. A bloody fist clenches tightly as he accepts that such a being has no place in heaven or earth. He thinks about being branded an enemy to the world and having to face the consequences. He then asks what the opponents find so funny if the spring-autumn cicada he refined works. Fang Yuan laughs wildly as the text frames his statement about the effectiveness of the refined spring-autumn cicada. He yells that even if he fails now, he shall still be a demon in his next life. The panel shows a powerful visual of his laughter and determination against a bloody background. His opponent calls him a wicked demon and asks what he is laughing about. The others warn everyone to be careful, thinking the demon is about to attack before his end, and urge him to surrender the cicada. The righteous cultivators square up against Fang Yuan, who stands at the top of some stone steps, surrounded by his residual power. A massive, red, ring-like energy slash cuts through the scene, aimed at a figure below. Bright light streams down as multiple energy rings attack from above, exploding with yellow and green energy. The red and white energy rings continue to swirl downwards toward the figures below. More destructive energy attacks flash downwards, mixing with blue lightning from the defenders. Intense blue lightning energy is shown in a dark setting, showing the clash of powers. More abstract blue lightning energy surges. The view zooms out to show a snowy mountain landscape overlooking a village, with beams of light shooting down from the sky. The scene shifts to the roof of a traditional building in the rain, with the sound of raindrops tapping. A leader stands before a crowd, and the narration expresses a humble request to the ancestors for blessings during the ceremony. A close-up of an elder man praying, asking that the ceremony attracts talented and intelligent young men. He continues, hoping these new talents will bring new blood and hope to their families, while other elders stand behind him. A close-up on the robes of the standing elders below the altar. A richly decorated ancestral altar is shown with incense burning, candles lit, and memorial tablets displayed. A closer look at the detailed ancestral altar setup. One of the elders bows deeply, touching his forehead to the ground with a soft thud sound effect. The altar is shown again, now with large decorative vases on either side, as the elder is deep in prayer. The camera focuses on the backs of the praying elders. The rain continues to tap on the eaves of the building, with a hanging decoration gently swaying. A voice reflects that time passes quickly, noting a year has gone by since the last ceremony. The speaker still clearly remembers the last event, while others around them chat excitedly about the upcoming ceremony. The elders discuss that tomorrow marks the opening of the annual grand ceremony and wonder about the new talents this year. One elder hopes for highly talented youths, noting the Guyue clan hasn't seen a true genius in 3 years, but the Bai and Zhang villages have produced remarkable talents. Another elder points out the talent of Bai Ning Bing from the Bai clan, whose natural talent is terrifying. The other elder listens intently as they discuss the impressive speed of Bai Ning Bing's growth. It is mentioned that Bai Ning Bing reached rank 3 Gu master level in just 2 years. His talent is so great that the older generation feels pressured, and he is expected to become the pillar of the Bai clan. Despite this, the speaker suggests hope remains for the young participants of this year's ceremony, mentioning a young genius from Fang Ji's side. This genius boy started speaking at 3 months, walking by 4, and reciting poetry by 5, clearly being very intelligent. The elder notes the shame that the boy's parents passed away early, and he is now raised by his uncle and aunt, mentioning hearing about his genius creations. The sound of a floorboard creaking draws attention as the clan head prepares to speak. The clan head states that it is natural for him to note the most outstanding and promising young ones, pointing out that among the juniors, Guyue Fang Yuan stands out the most. He explains that experience shows children with photographic memory, adult-like strength, or other innate talents often have exceptional potential for cultivation. The scene splits, showing the white-haired Fang Yuan looking serious, next to a dark-haired young man radiating purple energy. If this child, presumably Fang Yuan, shows great potential and is nurtured well, he could rival Bai Ningbing, or at least become a future banner for the Gu Yue clan even with B-grade talent. The clan head then tells everyone it is getting late and they should rest for tomorrow's opening ceremony. The other elders look on as the conversation concludes. One elder thinks to himself how he wishes he could bring Fang Yuan into his family to secure 100 years of prosperity, but then acknowledges there is a condition. The clan head advises them to compete fairly, without tricks or schemes that could harm the clan's unity. The younger elders immediately agree, saying they wouldn't dare do anything wrong. The clan head bids them good night and tells them to take care of themselves. The elders walk away in the pouring rain, the sound of dripping water audible. Looking at his reflection in a window, the elder remarks that there is still hope for the clan's future. The sound of something breaking or collapsing echoes over the village scene in the rain. The sound effect dominates the panel showing the village below, with a thought bubble stating Gu Yue Village. A sudden, loud sound and a flash of blue lightning accompany the realization. This is 500 years ago. The young man, who is now Fang Yuan reborn, stands in the rain, looking determined and serious. He confirms that it looks like the spring-autumn cicada worked and that he has been reborn. He recalls that the spring-autumn cicada is used to reverse time and is ranked 7th among the 10 big mystical Gu. He looks at his hand, realizing he is going back 500 years ago. A loud impact sound is shown as he clenches his fist, determined. He thinks that 500 years of experience really feels like a dream now. The chapter ends with a close-up on Fang Yuan's face and a long, vibrating sound effect. They say there is a secret river of time in this world that controls everything about time flow. If someone uses the power of the spring-autumn cicada, they can go back in time, upstream to the past. But people argue about this old story. Some think it is just a made-up fantasy, while others are not sure if it is real. Very few people actually believe it because using the spring-autumn cicada costs a person their life. Their whole body and all their cultivation become the power source for the cicada. That price is too big, and the worst part is that even after dying, they won't know what the result of going back in time will be. So, even if someone had the spring-autumn cicada, they wouldn't use it without thinking twice, wondering if the rumors were even true or just a big trick. The man thinks that if he wasn't in such a bad spot, he wouldn't have used it so quickly either, but now he is sure of one thing. He realized that he was reborn. He is standing there, showing some kind of power around him after his rebirth. He feels it is a shame because, right from the start in his past life, he wasted so much effort. He killed a huge number of people, made the heavens angry, and brought trouble from many others. All that trouble was just to finally get and make that one special Gu. Even though he is reborn now, the spring-autumn cicada did not come with him. The Gu he held earlier, the spring-autumn cicada, is now gone because it only lets you travel back once before disappearing forever. But he reminds himself that Gu worms come in thousands of types, strange and countless in variety. Some Gu worms disappear after being used just a few times. Other Gu worms can be used again and again, as long as they are not used past their limit. He believes the spring-autumn cicada is the one-time use kind, but even if it is gone, he can make another one. Since he succeeded in his past life, he is sure he can do it again in this new life. Even without the spring-autumn cicada now, he still has 500 years of memories and experience, plus treasures and rare items that are yet to be found. He also knows about major future events, turning points, future geniuses, hidden secrets, and people who are not even born yet. This knowledge comes with 500 years of hard cultivation and lots of fighting experience. Now he wonders how to start this journey. He figures the main problem is that the important locations are far apart from each other, and these places can only be reached during certain specific times on the map shown. But more important than anything right now is cultivating, as he hasn't even opened his primeval sea yet. He knows that in his current weak state, even a normal wild boar could kill him. To cultivate as fast as possible, he will need to use the clan's resources. He also realizes that in his current condition, he has no power to safely travel across the dangerous mountains. Looking at things through the eyes of a 500-year-old who cultivated the demonic way, the current surroundings feel very different. Qingmao Mountain feels way too small for him, and the Guyue village feels like a small cage. Yet, while a cage stops freedom, its strong bars also offer some protection. So, for this short time, he decides to stay inside this cage. He just needs to reach rank 3 Gu Master status, and then he can leave this small mountain. Luckily, the awakening ceremony is happening tomorrow, which means he can start training as a Gu Master soon after. He thinks about the talent situation. Perhaps a genius just acts differently from normal people. The door creaks open as his younger twin brother enters. The younger brother calls out to him. He asks the older brother why he is standing by the window in the rain and reminds him that tomorrow is the awakening ceremony, so he should be sleeping, or their aunt and uncle will worry. The younger brother then gently pushes the window closed. The shot shows the older brother standing by the window in the rain, looking out. A shot showing the inner structure of the room looking out through a circular window. The older brother then internally identifies the person who just came in as his twin little brother. The younger brother explains that he saw the window open and came in to close it for him. He again mentions the late hour and the awakening ceremony, worrying about what their aunt and uncle would think if they found out. The narration explains that Fang Zhang was not surprised by Fang Yuan's coldness, as his older brother had always been like that since they were little. It wonders if geniuses are just different from ordinary people, even though they look the same. The younger brother felt like he was just an ordinary ant compared to his older brother. They were born at the same time from the same mother, yet the heavens seemed so unfair, with one crying out loudly while the other smiled sweetly. The older brother was blessed with great talent, while the younger one was as plain as a stone. Everyone around them always pointed out that the younger one was just Fang Yuan's little brother. This feeling was so strong that sometimes, when looking in the mirror, the younger brother felt disgusted with his own face. This feeling was like a heavy stone pressing on his heart, making Fang Zhang lower his head more and become quieter over the years. Continuation of the previous thought about Fang Zhang's emotional state. Fang Yuan internally reflects, thinking about the word worried with a slight smile. He recalls that the parents he had in this life died on a clan mission when he was only 3 years old. After that, their aunt and uncle took him and his brother in, supposedly to raise them. However, these guardians treated them harshly and took their parents' inheritance for themselves, looking sinister while pretending to be kind. He originally wanted to hide his true abilities and wait for the right time, but life was hard, so he had to show some of his talents. He explains that his talent was just having a mature, intelligent soul that knew some ancient poems, which helped him get attention, but he chose to keep a cold face to avoid too much pressure. As a result of his cold act, his aunt and uncle stopped being as harsh towards him and his younger brother. This cold behavior soon became a habit. Over time, as they grew up, the way they were treated got a little better, but Fang Yuan knew this was not love, but just a kind of investment from his relatives. He finds it funny how his younger brother never saw the truth. Not only was he fooled by their aunt and uncle, but he also started holding resentment inside himself. When it was discovered that the younger brother had high-grade talent, He tried hard to suppress Fang Yuan. Meanwhile, Fang Yuan himself only had a C-grade talent, showing how cruel fate can be. The elder twin, known as a genius for over a decade, only had C-grade talent, while the younger, always ignored, turned out to have greater potential. From that moment on, the way the two brothers were treated completely flipped. The younger brother became like a dragon rising to the skies, while the older brother was like a phoenix that fell to the earth. The main character reflects on whether he hated that reversal in his past life. He confirms with a sharp look that yes, he hated it in his previous life. But now, after 500 years of living, he wonders what the point of holding on to that old feeling is. He decides there is nothing to gain from resentment, and looking at it differently, he can understand his brother. He thinks about his aunt and uncle, and even the enemies he would face centuries later. He remembers the harsh reality. The strong always prey on the weak, and this is the rule of survival of the fittest. These rules of survival have always been true in this world, a world full of war and bloodshed, so why should he question it? Everyone follows their own ambitions, grabbing every chance they can find. He recalls a scene of desperate people reaching out for something bright above them, possibly an illustration of the struggle for power. He declares that if anyone blocks his path, no matter who they are, he will simply kill them. His huge ambitions mean that stepping onto this road requires making the entire world his enemy. He accepts that this path is a lonely one, full of blood. He clarifies that revenge is not his goal. The demonic path does not allow for compromise. Then he tells his brother to leave. The older brother looks at his younger twin with a slight, almost sinister smile. The younger brother looks startled and worried. Under that sharp gaze, the younger brother felt completely exposed, like he was naked in the snow. The reborn protagonist stands there, looking powerful and intense, perhaps projecting his immense experience and power. The younger brother is left feeling completely unable to hide anything. The younger brother says goodbye, promising to see him tomorrow, and quietly closes the door with a creak. The younger brother stands by the window, gently tapping the glass, perhaps lost in thought. A continuation of the previous quiet moment. A sound effect shows the younger brother letting out a breath. Huff. Continuation of the sound effect as the younger brother breathes. The scene then quickly shifts to show the older brother falling or moving rapidly away from the window. Another huff sound effect suggesting quick movement or disturbance. The chapter ends with the title card for Reverend Insanity. The scene switches to a chibi-style comic where a small, cute version of a character frantically searches, asking, "Where is it?" The chibi character continues searching, looking under things, and getting frustrated, ending with a little sigh. Finally, the chibi character shouts in excitement, "Finally!" holding up a small book labeled Reverend Insanity. The small book he found has 500 years of experience written on a sticky note attached to it, and a promotional message appears to buy physical books. The chibi character beams and waves happily at the viewer. The day starts at the 5th watch of the tiger, and someone is loudly knocking on a door, warning about fire. The sound of knocking is loud, and we see a close-up of the eyes of the protagonist, Fang Yuan, who has barely slept. Fang Yuan mentions he only got about 2 hours of sleep because he was thinking too much, and it is almost dawn now. He realizes this current body has not started cultivating yet, making it weak and tired. Despite the weak body, his centuries of experience and determination are still strong, and he sees a vision of himself with long white hair. He opens the window, feeling the spring rain has stopped, and takes a deep breath. A servant girl calls out to young master Fang Yuan, noting that he is awake. The servant girl, with a sweet look, tells him she will go upstairs and wait for him to wash up. The scene shows the title card and credits for the chapter. Fang Yuan dips his hand into the washing basin while the servant girl watches with a slight smile. As the servant helps him change his outer robe, rustling sounds are heard, and we see her close to him. Fang Yuan gives a brief glance at the servant girl while she is helping him. Fang Yuan thinks about the servant girl, Shen Kui, knowing she looks innocent but is actually a spy for his aunt, ready to betray him at any moment. Then, his brother, Fang Yujian, appears at the door, calling him brother, and stands next to the servant girl. Fang Yuan wonders how it would feel if Shen Kui cared for him like that, before contrasting her with his current servant, who is old and wrinkled. He recalls that his servant was given to him because his uncle and aunt asked her to look after the brothers. He explains that even though Shen Kui is a servant, she must be important because she is the daughter of Mother Shen, the caretaker of the whole household, who has the trust of both his aunt and uncle. Fang Yuan tells the servant girl there is no need to tidy up, and then his mind drifts back to his previous life, remembering how he was fooled by Shen Kui's charm and developed feelings for her. He remembers thinking that if he had a great talent, he could make her his concubine, but after the talent awakening ceremony, she gave him disdainful looks. He states that now, he no longer cares about that, and coldly tells Shen Kui to leave. Shen Kui reacts with clear anger and annoyance at being dismissed, puffing up her cheeks. She reluctantly agrees, saying yes, and then kneels down as Fang Yuan walks past her. Fang Yuan asks if she is ready to go, and the scene shifts to an outside view. Fang Yuan is shown wrapping his hand bindings while his brother responds with a sad yes. Fang Yuan notes that he never noticed how little his brother slept in his previous life, thinking that perhaps it does not matter now anyway. He then tells everyone to then let's go, as they head out towards a bright morning sky. They walk along a path leading into a small village or clan area nestled among mountains. People start whispering about Fang Yuan and his brother, calling them the Fang brothers, mentioning Fang Yuan is the one who wrote the famous poems and looks expressionless as the rumors say. Fang Yuan reflects that this is a perfect example of how outstanding talent draws jealousy, explaining why he received cold looks after his low C-grade talent was announced. Others notice Fang Zhang, commenting on how weak he looks compared to his brother. The whispers continue, pitying Fang Zhang and wondering what grade he will receive, while Fang Yuan gives a cold glance. His hand starts to tremble as he feels a strong internal pressure or disturbance. Suddenly, a loud thumping sound is heard, and a woman's face shows extreme shock and fear. The feeling intensifies like drowning, and Fang Yuan feels like he is being consumed by a dark substance, struggling to stay afloat. He forces himself to focus, thinking he needs to pull himself together, remembering the scheming of his uncle and aunt. He clenches his fists, looking determined, and we see a close-up of his sharp eyes against the bright sky. He recalls how his uncle and aunt were always scheming, manipulating them step by step and planting jealousy to create a rift between the brothers. In his previous life, he lacked the experience to see through their plots, and his brother was too foolish, so the uncle's plan succeeded. Now, however, he possesses knowledge and perception that rivals a mortal's, and though the talent ceremony is near, he feels he can change things with his demonic methods. He thinks about the various people he could deal with, like turning Shen Kui into a concubine, suppressing Fang Zhang entirely, or even dealing with his aunt and uncle, as well as the clan elders. He is confident he has hundreds of ways to defeat them, but he truly does not feel like wasting time and effort on them. Fang Yuan dismisses the importance of the people around him. Shen Kui is worthless without loyalty. He could discard his own brother anytime, and his aunt, uncle, and clan elders are just temporary figures in his life. He thinks why he should waste time and effort on such people. He concludes that as long as no one stands in his way, they can step aside and scram, as he does not need to care about them. This panel is blank. The chapter ends with a comical sequence where Fang Yuan confirms he has eaten his bazi, rice balls, dumplings, and tea, and is finally ready with a triumphant look while lying exhausted on the floor. The story opens with a view of grand, traditional buildings set against a hazy mountain backdrop. Then, a crowd of young people gathers in an open area with small wooden structures, all looking eager and chatting amongst themselves. An older man in white robes stands before them, commanding attention, silencing the chatter of the youths looking up at him. The elder addresses the group, announcing that today is the very important awakening ceremony for them. He tells them this day is a big turning point in their lives, and without saying much more, he leads them forward, one young person stepping carefully into a dark cave. As they walk deeper, everyone is amazed by the glowing blue crystals and formations in the underground space. The cave opens up into a vast underground area filled with shimmering, purple-blue light and strange rock formations. The focus shifts to the main character, Fang Yuan, who stands with a serious look as credits appear for the creators of this story. The narration begins to explain the history. Hundreds of years ago, the Guyue clan moved from the central lands to Qingmao Mountain. It was there, deep inside an underground cave, that the clan discovered a spirit spring. This spring gives out many primeval stones, which became the base of the Guyue village. The crowd watches silently near the edge of a pool of bright blue, spiritual water. Beneath the water, fish swim among the rocks, and then the view shifts to a sea of glowing blue flowers. The camera focuses on the stunning, bright blue flowers covering the ground near the water's edge. The narrator explains that the moon orchid flower found here is food for many types of gu, making this whole area the clan's biggest cultivation resource. Two of the youths express how beautiful the flower sea is, clearly impressed by the sight. The elder then calls for quiet and tells them his plan. He will call their names, and those called must walk across the flower river to the opposite bank. He instructs them to walk as far as they possibly can, because the farther they walk, the better their talent is shown to be. After confirming everyone understands the instruction, the youths loudly agree, shouting clear. Everyone knows that walking further means proving greater innate talent, and one young man seems determined, thinking about how his whole life could change based on this result. When the name Guyue Chenbo is called, the young man jumps nervously as a loud thump sounds around him. Guyue Chenbo steps into the glowing blue water, making splashes as he walks. He continues stepping, moving through the water and towards the flower field. As Chenbo emerges onto the flowers, the youth who was called looks determined, while the crowd watches from the darkness. He starts walking through the dense field of blue flowers, the flowers rustling with each step he takes. The count begins, showing his progress. 1 step, 2 steps, and 3 steps. As he struggles forward, the young man mutters to himself to keep moving, pushing himself further into the glowing light. The scene goes blank for a moment, emphasizing the effort. The elder looks down at his record book, calling out Guyue Chenbo, and then notes down 3 steps. Suddenly, the youth is shown in distress, with others looking on judgmentally, as the narration states he has no talent to become a gu master. The elder kneels down, looking at the next person while another youth watches nearby. The elder calls the next name, Guyue Zhaozi, and then explains generally that not everyone has the natural talent to become a gu master. The focus briefly settles on the protagonist, Fang Yuan, observing the proceedings with a thoughtful expression. It is explained that in the Guyue clan, the ratio of talented people is higher 6 out of 10 due to their ancestor. This is because the first-generation clan leader was a very famous and powerful man, and his strong genes passed down, making the average talent quality higher in the clan. The old elder looks on, seemingly disappointed by the results so far. He sighs, calling it another failure, and then calls out the next name, Gu Yue Mo Bei, who promptly answers here. Gu Yue Mo Bei splashes into the river and starts his attempt to cross the flower sea. Mo Bei walks further than the previous person, passing the markers for 10 and 20 steps with a confident look on his face. He reaches 30 steps, and then the result is announced, 36 steps. The crowd reacts with surprise and excitement, and the elder praises Mo Bei, calling him good, Gu Yue Mo Bei B-grade talent, and asks him to show his primeval C next. Mo Bei sends out a burst of golden light from his hand as the elder checks his energy. The elder confirms that Mo Bei's primeval C measures 6 by 6, meaning he can be vigorously trained, and tells him he can return now. The scene then explains the 4 grades of talent, D, C, B, and A, showing them as steps, with D being the lowest. A D-grade youth, after 3 years, can become a rank 1 senior Gu master, forming the foundation of their family. A C-grade talent becomes a rank 2 Gu master in 2 years, becoming the backbone of the clan. A B-grade talent needs care and often becomes a future clan elder, reaching rank 3 after 6 to 7 years of training. An A-grade talent is extremely rare and brings great fortune. They need the utmost care and could become a rank 4 Gu master in about 10 years, eligible to compete for clan head. The elder encourages everyone that hard work can lead to becoming a clan elder, urging them to give it their all. After the tests, a few elders are seen talking amongst themselves with murmurs of hey. One elder asks another what he thinks of his grandson, Gu Yue Lian, suggesting he is good. A different man with red facial hair looks on intensely, seemingly annoyed. 1 hour later, the remaining young people are waiting by the river as the elder looks worriedly at his notes. The elder sighs, noting that the bloodline is getting thinner, as the clan hasn't had a rank 4 master in recent years to strengthen it. He recalls that the 4th generation clan head was the only rank 5 master, but he perished, leaving behind weak descendants, meaning the later generations are growing weaker in talent, and then he calls out Gu Yue Kai Chen. The elder looks sternly at the records before him. A young man with red hair, Gu Yue Kai Chen, nervously replies, "Why yes." Kai Chen steps into the flower sea, and the flowers rustle as he walks, reaching 35 steps. He pushes forward, reaching exactly 36 steps, and an excited voice exclaims, "Another B grade." The elder is shocked and starts stuttering in his notes, while another elder looks on with anger. The red-bearded man laughs loudly, proclaiming, "Ha! 36 steps." While the angry elder scowls in frustration, the red-bearded man asks Fang Yuan if he saw that, referring to Gu Yue Kai Chen, and then internally recalls that Kai Chen was severely punished before for cheating during the awakening ceremony. Fang Yuan thinks to himself that in reality, Kai Chen only had C-grade talent, but his grandfather, Gu Yue Kai Lian, helped him fake the results to appear as B-grade talent. Fang Yuan also considers that if he wanted to cheat, he could do it flawlessly. He reflects that if he appeared to have A or B-grade talent, he would get huge support from the clan, but he didn't have time to prepare anything since he was reborn. Fang Yuan continues his thoughts, noting that even if he could cheat, he wouldn't be able to take his cultivation speed and would eventually be exposed. He contrasts himself with Gu Yue Kai Chen, whose grandfather, Gu Yue Kai Lian, is one of the 2 most powerful elders in the clan. Because of Kai Lian's power, he could cover up for his grandson, and Kai Lian has always been hostile towards Gu Yue Mo Chen. Fang Yuan realizes these 2 elders are the clan's most influential figures, and Kai Lian needed his grandson to have good talent to suppress his rival. This support helped Kai Chen hide the truth for some time. Fang Yuan recalls that in his memories, if it wasn't for that incident, the truth about Kai Chen would never have come out. He wonders if he should expose the cheating. He reasons that exposing it might get him a small reward, but it would also make him enemies with the powerful Guyue Kai Lian, which is not wise, and with his low status, it would likely backfire on him. The elder calls the final name Guyue Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan looks up with a very cold and composed expression. The scene shifts to a thank you page for patrons who supported the webtoon, with credits for the creators. The creators leave a note asking for support on Patreon, explaining that making the webtoon takes time and resources. A chibi character then asks, "How should I use this information?" Fang Yuan reacts with a surprised "huh" to something, then a hand appears suggesting, "Try this," offering a book titled Reverend Insanity, and the word peak is exclaimed. Fang Yuan is shown holding the physical book, and a chibi version encourages viewers to buy the physical books at Kadoku.store. The chapter ends with the final credits and contact information for Kadoku Studio. The oldest stories speak of a creature called Hope Gu. In the beginning, when the world was new, it was a land full of wild and dangerous problems. Amidst the wild beasts roaming the earth, the very first human appeared. This first man was named Renzu. These problems loved to eat Renzu, but he did not have a body as strong as a mountain rock, nor did he have sharp teeth like a wild animal. So, how could he fight against all those problems? His food source was not steady, and he had to hide all day long just to stay alive. He was at the very bottom of nature's food chain and could barely survive. At this moment, 3 goo worms came to him and offered a deal. They told him, as long as he provided for them with his life, they would help him get over his troubles. Renzu first gave his life force to the biggest goo among the 3, and that goo then gave him strength. With this strength, Renzu's life started to change. He got a stable food source and could protect himself. He fought bravely and crushed many problems, but soon he learned that strength was not everything. When he faced a whole group of problems, his strength alone was not enough, as shown by a giant eye looking on. Renzu understood this lesson the hard way, so he decided to give his prime years to the most beautiful goo of the 3, which gave him wisdom. With wisdom, Renzu could learn to think and plan better. By using wisdom, he could achieve the goals he couldn't before and kill countless problems. He ate the meat and drank the blood of the problems he defeated, surviving through his toughness. But good things don't last, and Renzu started to grow old. He would only get older and older until the strength and wisdom goo realized something. They asked him, "Human, what else can you give us?" The 2 goo realized this fact, and they both left him. Without strength and wisdom, Renzu was once again surrounded by problems, and now he was old and could not even run away. His teeth had fallen out, and he couldn't even chew soft things. Renzu collapsed weakly on the ground, surrounded by problems, and his heart was full of sadness. Then a bright light appeared, and a voice said, "Human, take me. I will help you escape these problems." Renzu replied that he had nothing left to give. Strength and wisdom goo had already abandoned him, and he only had a few years left to live. He said, even though he was surrounded by problems right now, at least he wouldn't die right away. He wished to live just a second longer, so he told the light to leave because he had nothing else to give. The light responded, saying that among the 3 goo, it had the smallest needs. The voice told him, "Human, if you just offer me your heart, it will be enough." Renzu agreed, saying, "Then I shall give you my heart." As a bright light shone down, a voice urged, "It's Hope Goo." And another voice yelled, "Run away." Renzu realized that problems were most afraid of hope. From that day on, whenever Renzu faced problems, he gave his heart to hope. Then, the scene shifts back to the present. Suddenly, a loud voice called out, "Gu Yue Fang Yuan." Fang Yuan let out a small chuckle, saying, "Hey, It's getting more and more exciting. He stepped into a pool of water with loud splashes. Fang Yuan stood there, glowing slightly. As he walked through a field of glowing purple flowers, there was a rustling sound. The sound continued, and Fang Yuan's eyes darkened as he thought, "The hope goo has started moving." A bright light sparked from his chest with a loud whoosh sound. An old man from the crowd looked on and whispered, "The number of hope goo is less than expected." The other elders started whispering among themselves, looking worried. The main elder's face darkened, thinking, this was definitely not the sign of an A-grade talent. Below, footsteps were heard rustling through the flowers again. Fang Yuan clenched his fist hard, thinking to himself, "Up till now, I have walked 23 steps." Numbers started appearing around him. 24, 25, 26, 27, as he powered up with a strong aura. An intense close-up of his eyes showed a strong determination or perhaps a struggle. He let out a heavy breath as a heartbeat sound echoed, "Be dumb." Another whoosh sound surrounded him as he continued to gather power. The power build-up continued, and a thought declared, the awakening ceremony was a success. Another thought followed, this was the hope to immortality. Then, the narration started describing an internal structure. The aperture is mysterious and unusual. It explained that although the aperture was inside Fang Yuan's body, it did not share space with his organs, showing a glowing orb inside him. It was described as being endlessly huge yet infinitely small at the same time. Some called this space the Purple Prefecture, and some called it the Chinese Pool. However, most people knew it as the primeval sea aperture, which was held up by a thin membrane of light to stop it from collapsing. Inside this aperture was the primeval sea, which only rank 1 goo masters could form, known as the Green Copper Sea. The height of Fang Yuan's primeval sea surface only reached 44% of the aperture's height. This meant it was falling short of even half its height, which was the limitation of a C-grade talent. Every drop of that seawater was pure primeval essence, which represented the condensation of Fang Yuan's essence, vitality, and soul. This primeval essence is what goo masters use to raise goo, and this meant Fang Yuan had officially entered the path of a rank 1 goo master. Since the aperture had opened, no more hope goo entered Fang Yuan's body. Fang Yuan thought to himself, just like my previous life, I can't take even one more step forward. The old man from the crowd looked up, asking in shock, "You can't go any further?" Fang Yuan gave him a cold glance. The old man looked up towards the sky, holding his measuring tool. Fang Yuan looked down at the collapsed people nearby. One of them exclaimed, "What?" A young man in the crowd looked totally shocked, thinking, so he was just a C-grade talent? The people whispered amongst themselves, finding it unbelievable that such a genius was only a C-grade talent. Someone muttered, "Only 27 steps." Another person wondered if there was a mistake, saying, "I had always thought that older brother would be an A-grade talent." A woman chimed in, saying it wasn't just her. The aunt, uncle, and the whole clan thought so too, murmuring, "Big brother." Then, someone shouted in disbelief, "Damn, he was only a C-grade." The elders were furious and shocked, one yelling, "Could the results be wrong?" Another elder insisted, "How can that be? This method is accurate beyond reasoning." One of the elders admitted, not to add that we were watching the entire time, even cheating is hard. He continued to explain that youths with a higher quality primeval sea often show traits better than normal people, like intelligence, perception, memory, and strength. However, he concluded that these traits don't guarantee high primeval talent. In the end, everything is decided by the results of the awakening ceremony, and the greater the hopes, the greater the disappointment. The elder looked down, clearly disappointed, realizing that the Guyue clan's current generation was no longer what it was in the days of the first generation. The chapter ends with the dark aftermath of this realization. A person looked very shocked, realizing something was wrong as people whispered around them. Suddenly, a loud noise happened as people reacted strongly to what they saw. The main person, seemingly Fang Yuan, was in water, experiencing some kind of heavy impact. He then stood still, looking serious and composed despite the chaos. This part shows the title card for the story, Reverend Insanity, with creator and studio details. A thought bubble showed that when bad things happen, one must hold on to hope, and others' disappointments do not matter to him. He decided to walk his own path, letting others be unhappy as they wished, before an old man sighed and called for the next person. The name Guyue Fangzhang was called out twice, and a young man reacted with surprise and excitement, saying, "Why yes." There was a loud thud and a big splash as someone fell into the water, making a big scene. Someone laughed loudly in an icy cave area, while an elder commented that the Fang brothers were nothing special. The elder looked embarrassed, and then the scene showed a tense moment between two people in the dark blue light with pounding sounds. One person forcefully grabbed the other's collar, pulling them roughly. The person being grabbed started to tremble with fear, perhaps from the person called BBR. The grabbed person coughed hard repeatedly, struggling for breath. Then came more laughter and a comment about the difficult older and younger brothers of the Fang family being truly alike, as an old man looked on grimly. The main character looked down, seeming calm, and quietly told the other person to go on. He looked forward with dark eyes, thinking about the road to the future ahead of a crowd. He concluded that the future road will be interesting, looking ahead with a slight smirk. A rustling sound was heard as the character moved away from the scene. He stepped onto glowing blue flowers on a rock, while someone remarked that they never thought the big brother would be so calm. Another person noted that if it were them, they would have reacted differently, followed by a loud sound and the announcement of 43 steps. A woman with bright hair looked overjoyed, announcing excitedly, OHMYGOD, A-grade talent. The older man shared that it has been 3 years since an A-grade talented genius appeared in the Guyue clan, and then another person stated that the Fang bloodline came from their Kai bloodline. That person suggested the Kai family should adopt Guyue Fangzhang, which was immediately challenged by another man who called the suggestion impossible and accused the proposer of having corrupt morals and misleading young boys. The challenger insisted it was better for him, Guyue Mo Chen, to raise the child, but the clan leader stopped the argument. The clan leader firmly stated that no one was more qualified to raise the child than him, the current clan leader, and dared anyone who objected to oppose him, Guyue Bo. A week passed, and the scene shifted to a bright, sunny sky, as someone began explaining the basics of Gu, stating humans are the spirit of all living beings, and Gu are the essence of heaven and earth. The explanation continued, saying there are countless species and numbers of Gu everywhere, in soil, bushes, and on wild beasts. The speaker detailed that B-grade talents have 60 to 70% of their aperture filled with primeval C and can cultivate up to rank 4, while A-grade talents have 80 to 90% primeval C, making them most gifted, able to reach rank 5. The speaker mentioned that Gu masters of rank 6 and above are legends, and the Guyue clan has never had a rank 6 master, but they have had rank 4 and rank 5 masters before. The focus returned to Fang Yuan, who was seen sleeping deeply, with someone noting he had been sleeping through class for a week. The gossip continued, saying he was heard wandering the village edge all night, often seen drunk outside with a wine jar, though it was safer now that the surroundings were cleared, concluding the blow of his talent assessment was too big. It was noted that even after a week, he was still very dispirited, and one person scoffed, saying they must have mistaken him for a genius before, since how could someone like him be a genius? Someone else recalled trying to talk to Fang Yuan many times about this, but it was useless as Fang Yuan did as he pleased, sleeping through classes and causing headaches. They decided to forget him, as fostering him with such a temperament would only waste the clan's resources. The clan history was then discussed, mentioning that there have been many strong Gu masters, with 2 rank 5 masters in history. One of them was the first generation clan head, the ancestor who established the Gu Yue village, and the other was the 4th clan head. The 4th clan head had remarkable talent and almost reached rank 6, but he was stopped by a sneak attack from the despicable and shameless flower wine monk. People blamed the flower wine monk for being too sinister and cunning, lamenting that the 4th clan head was soft-hearted and died too young, with some wishing they were born earlier to fight the demon. It was told that the flower wine monk was a rank 5 Gu master known in the demonic faction for being a rapist who traveled to Qingmao Mountain and attempted crimes in Gu Yue village, but was caught by the 4th clan leader. After an earth-shaking battle where the flower wine monk begged for mercy, the 4th clan head was merciful and intended to spare his life. However, the wine monk launched a surprise attack, severely wounding the clan head, who then killed the monk in a rage, but the injuries were too severe, and he died, becoming a hero to the clansmen. Fang Yuan thought about the flower wine monk and wondered where his inheritance was, as he couldn't find it after searching the whole village. He questioned where exactly the flower wine monk died, mentioning that he had been buying wine and wandering the village every night for the past few days. He hoped the aroma of the liquor would attract a liquor worm, just like what happened to a heartbroken Gu master 2 months earlier who was found drunk outside the village. That drunk Gu master's wine aroma attracted a liquor worm, which fled, leading the master to chase it and discover an underground entrance where he found the flower wine monk's bones and inheritance. The Gu master benefited greatly afterward, his cultivation soaring and even his former lover returning to him, becoming the talk of the clan, though the exact location was unknown. Fang Yuan thought that since he was reborn, he needed to find that spot, and he had been trying to attract the worm with wine at night, but it never appeared, wishing he could find the liquor worm and refine it into his vital Gu instead of the clan's moonlight Gu. He reflected that refining the liquor worm would be far better than the clan's moonlight Gu. Suddenly, time jumped forward in the blink of an eye to April, and Fang Yuan realized there wasn't much time left. The scene changed to a jungle area with loud rustling sounds as an instructor addressed the students, saying that this week he taught them how to examine their aperture's primeval sea and circulate the primeval essence. The instructor announced that now it was time for them to refine their vital Gu, telling them to go to the Gu room after class to select a Gu worm and focus on refining it, after which they could return to classes. This refinement would be their first assessment, and whoever finished first would be rewarded with a generous sum of 20 primeval stones. The scene ended with a close-up of shining, glowing primeval stones falling into darkness. The story begins with a view of a grand building surrounded by green trees and tall mountains under a bright sky. Inside, a crowd of people are rushing forward, eager to enter the building, as having a Gu is the key to strength for a Gu master's cultivation journey. The crowd pushes and shoves aggressively, everyone trying to get ahead of the others to reach whatever is inside first. An authority figure shouts at the pushing crowd, demanding they form a line and enter one by one. The camera focuses on the dimly lit entrance area of the building, showing doors and small openings along the wall. A slight gap in the image shows more of the building's structure and stairs leading up to it, with the sky visible above. The scene pulls back to show the entire building nestled in the greenery, with people still gathering outside, chatting amongst themselves. The noise of the crowd continues as the focus zooms in on a determined-looking young man pushing through the people. The movement is fast, with a dramatic sound effect indicating a sudden, perhaps jarring, action. A single, ancient-looking white urn sits on the tiled floor inside, casting a large shadow under bright light streaming from the entrance. A close-up shows a small, ornate metal fixture, like a keyhole or lock mechanism, set into a rough stone wall. The view shifts to a lower shelf in the stone structure, where several small, indistinct objects are placed. An explanation appears, stating that Gu are divided into 9 big levels, just like the 9 realms of Gu masters. The main character, dressed in dark robes, walks into the dimly lit room towards the urn. It is explained that all the Gu in this room are rank 1, and usually, rank 1 Gu masters can only use rank 1 Gu. Using higher level Gu would cost a rank 1 Gu master an extremely heavy price, and also, Gu need to be fed. The high cost of feeding higher level Gu is noted as something a lower ranked Gu master often cannot afford, as the character holds a glowing sphere containing a small creature. It is explained that newcomers usually pick a rank 1 Gu worm as their first refined Gu, and the first Gu a master refines has great significance, becoming their vital Gu that connects their lives. If this vital Gu dies, the Gu master will suffer a huge blow, and the character reflects that his original wish was to refine the flower wine monk's liquor worm as his vital Gu. However, the character notes with a glance that there are no leads on finding the flower wine monk's skeleton right now. He thinks he doesn't even know when he or someone else will find it, so for safety, he will pick the Moonlight Gu first. The Moonlight Gu is a local Gu of the Gu Yue clan, and many clansmen choose it as their vital Gu, with a hand now holding the glowing blue crescent-shaped Gu. This Moonlight Gu was not made by nature but cultivated by the Gu Yue clan using a secret method, so it cannot be found anywhere else. The narration emphasizes that the Moonlight Gu is a symbol of the Gu Yue clan, even though the liquor worm is more precious. The character stands solemnly as another person rushes past an open door in the background. The liquor worm is more precious than the Moonlight Gu, and although the Moonlight Gu is a specialty of the village, it doesn't help cultivation as much as the worm would. The scene shifts to an exterior shot of a tavern sign hanging outside a traditional building with red lanterns. The character enters the tavern and orders 2 jars of aged wine from the shopkeeper. He explains that for the past few days, he has been buying wine here and scouting the village border to try and attract the liquor worm to appear. The smiling shopkeeper greets him, acknowledging his repeated visits. The character grabs some golden, bean-like objects, which are primeval stones, the currency of this world, used to measure value. Primeval stones are also condensed matter of the world's essence and are important for a Gu master's cultivation, having both monetary and usable properties. However, with Fang Yuan's constant spending, even if he had many primeval stones, it wouldn't be enough. He thinks about buying 2 jars of wine every day for 7 full days, meaning his initial savings are almost gone. Fang Yuan walks up some stone steps, emerging from the building, carrying bags, perhaps of wine or money. He reflects that for Gu masters, primeval stones are not just money, but also a supplement for cultivation, shown by a glowing spiritual figure absorbing energy. A powerful, shadowy figure is shown meditating, absorbing bright streams of energy into a central sphere of light. With enough primeval stones, the rate of cultivation greatly increases, which can cover up the disadvantages of those with lower talent grades. He worries that he won't have primeval stones to buy wine tomorrow, and the liquor worm still won't appear, questioning if he really has to refine the Moonlight Gu as his vital Gu. He recalls the Academy elders saying the first person to refine their vital Gu gets a reward of 20 primeval stones. He assumes many others are at home trying their best to refine their goo and compete for that first position, surrounded by market chatter. He laments that refining the vital goo mainly tests innate talent, and with his C-grade talent, he has no chance of winning without special help while he walks away from the busy area. He concludes that with his C-grade talent, without any special means, he has no chance of winning the reward. Suddenly, someone shouts for Big Brother, accusing him of going to the tavern to buy alcohol. The accuser urgently tells him to follow them because his aunt and uncle want to see him, insisting he must stop drinking and cannot go on like this. The accuser yells that he has no idea how worried the people who care about him are, as Fang Yuan turns to face him with a stern look. A powerful gust of wind or force sweeps across the scene as Fang Yuan ignores the confrontation. The narration explains that in just 1 month after the awakening ceremony, humans change greatly, affecting both the older and younger brother. The older brother, Fang Yuan, fell from grace, his title of genius destroyed, while a figure is shown enveloped in a blue, descending energy. The younger brother, Fang Zhang, began to shine brightly, rising like a new star, feeling like he was dragged from darkness into light. Fang Zhang finds it hard to adapt to his new life, though he seems physically imposing here. In a short time, Fang Zhang went from unknown to closely watched, feeling like a toddler learning to walk amidst whispering, shadowy figures. Fang Zhang reflects that this is what his older brother, Fang Yuan, always felt, realizing how beautiful and difficult that spotlight is, and he hears about Fang Yuan falling into depression, becoming a drunkard, and sleeping in class. Fang Zhang is shocked that his once talented older brother is now in ruin and despair, questioning if this is proof of his own growth. He slowly starts to understand that his big brother was also just a normal man after all, while a close-up shows Fang Yuan sitting dejectedly amongst wine jars. A fierce close-up of Fang Yuan's eyes declares that he is the outstanding one and this is the truth, suggesting a major internal shift. Fang Zhang yells at Fang Yuan, demanding he wakes up and snaps him out of his state. A close shot focuses intensely on Fang Yuan's dark eyes. A shot zooms in on Fang Zhang's surprised and perhaps wary eyes. Another intense, shadowed close-up of Fang Yuan's eye focuses on him. Fang Zhang questions what is wrong with Fang Yuan, asking why he can't even muster the courage to look at his older brother. A tight shot shows Fang Zhang's serious, almost cold expression directed towards Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan's thought bubble declares emphatically that he has completely changed. Fang Yuan turns away, telling Fang Zhang, "What are you gawking at? Let's go." Fang Zhang reacts with a loud screech as Fang Yuan moves away quickly. Fang Yuan is seen moving rapidly, almost flying or being thrown through the air amidst the village setting. A close-up on Fang Yuan's long, flowing dark hair emphasizes the speed of his movement. The background fades into white as the movement continues, a blank crop indicating a time or location change. The scene shifts to a warm sunset over traditional architecture, with two small figures silhouetted on a roofline. Inside a richly decorated room, the aunt and uncle are speaking to Fang Yuan and Fang Zhang, noting that they are both 15 years old now. The uncle continues, mentioning that both boys have the talents of a goo master, especially Fang Zhang. The uncle proudly states he and the aunt are proud of them and will give them both 6 primeval stones as support. The uncle extends his hand, telling Fang Zhang to take the stones. Fang Zhang kneels to accept the stones, while the uncle explains that refining goo consumes a lot of primeval essence, so they need these stones. Fang Yuan, standing nearby, looks down grimly. Fang Yuan's hand takes the money bag from the uncle. Fang Zhang excitedly accepts the bag, thanking his aunt and uncle, saying his nephew needs the primeval stones to replenish his primeval essence. Fang Zhang bows deeply, expressing his eternal gratitude for being raised by them. The aunt encourages them to sit down, saying they have always treated both boys as their own children. She explains that they are proud of their great future, but sadly, they don't have children of their own. The aunt suggests that it would be best if Fang Zeng could really become their child, as she beams happily, while Fang Yuan remains unreadable. Close-up shows the uncle holding a pouch of stones. The uncle states he discussed it with the aunt and they thought of adopting both boys to become a genuine, real family. The uncle then asks Fang Zeng if he is willing to be adopted. Fang Zeng looks wide-eyed and surprised at the proposition. Fang Zeng expresses that ever since his parents died, he has greatly longed for a family of his own and eagerly accepts. The aunt is overjoyed, telling Fang Zeng he is their good son now and should stop calling them aunt and uncle. She expresses happiness, saying it was not a waste to raise him for 10 whole years since he was 5. Fang Zeng exclaims, "Father, mother," showing his acceptance. The uncle happily agrees it was not a waste to raise him, and then turns to Fang Yuan, asking about him. The aunt wipes a tear of joy while the uncle asks Fang Yuan his thoughts. Fang Yuan looks away silently as the uncle turns to him. Fang Yuan is shown looking down, still silent. Fang Yuan shakes his head slightly, indicating his decision without speaking. Fang Zeng calls out "Big brother," clearly upset by Fang Yuan's silence or refusal. The uncle tells Fang Yuan that if that is the case, they won't force him, but since he is 15, he needs to be independent. The uncle adds that this way he can easily carry on the Fang bloodline, and he has prepared 200 primeval stones for his financial support. Fang Zeng is shocked to hear the amount. 200 primeval stones. Fang Zeng looks visibly shocked and angry at the large sum given to Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan, looking impassive, accepts the stones and tells his aunt and uncle if there is nothing else, he will take his leave. Fang Zeng cries out that his big brother is not thinking straight and asks his father to let him advise him. The uncle tells Fang Zeng the matter cannot be forced, stating he is content with Fang Zeng's great talent as his father. The uncle then tells the servants to take good care of young master Fang Zeng. Fang Yuan walks away, leaving the two behind. The uncle and aunt look on as Fang Yuan leaves, with the uncle telling the servants to take care of Fang Zeng well. The uncle finishes by stating that Fang Yuan will take his leave. The uncle and aunt are now alone in the room, looking out a barred window at the night sky. The uncle realizing something. The uncle tells his wife that it looks like the brat Fang Yuan has seen through their plot. It is explained that according to Guyue clan rules, the eldest son at 16 inherits the family fortune, and Fang Yuan's parents left him a fortune. This fortune was being taken care of by his aunt and uncle after his parents passed away, as shown by their parents' grave markers. This inheritance was much more valuable than the measly 200 primeval stones, and if Fang Yuan had agreed to be adopted, he would lose the right to this fortune. By choosing to be independent at 15, Fang Yuan would also be defying the clan's regulations. The uncle notes thankfully that they managed to win over Fang Zeng and Fang Yuan only has C-grade talent. The aunt worries about what they will do if Fang Yuan decides to go independent at 16, but the uncle dismisses her concern, saying he can't blame them if he acts undisciplined. The uncle plots that as long as they catch him committing a huge mistake before he leaves, they can expel him and snatch away his right to inherit the legacy. The aunt points out that the brat is very clever, so how would he make a mistake? The uncle exclaims she is really stupid, and if he won't make a mistake, they can frame him instead. The story begins with a figure sitting quietly inside a room, the surroundings dark and lit only by a small candle. Suddenly, there is a knock on the door, interrupting the silence. A voice announces that the hot bathwater for young master Fang Zeng is ready. The figure outside the door is a woman in a flowing robe, waiting patiently. Fang Yuan, who was inside, glances towards the door, seemingly noticing the interruption. He simply tells the person to bring the bathwater in. The servant girl enters, quietly sets down the wooden tub, and respectfully greets the young master. The servant girl, looking eagerly at Fang Yuan, is carrying a wooden tub filled with steaming water. She thinks to herself that Fang Yuan only had C-grade talent, but his relative, Fang Zheng, possessed a much better A-grade talent. She believes that winning over Fang Zheng would be a much greater fortune for her. The chapter title card for Reverend Insanity appears, along with the creator's credits. The credits roll, followed by some atmospheric, smoky art. Everything goes dark, setting a somber mood. Outside, heavy rain is falling late at night over the village nestled among the mountains. The rain pours down heavily onto the dark, packed houses of the village. Inside, Fang Yuan notes that 3 days and 3 nights have already passed. He recalls leaving the village 3 days ago with 2 jars of wine, trying to search the surrounding areas. The search was impossible to continue late into the night because of the downpour. He realizes that the rain would quickly wash away the wine's fragrance, which was key to his search. Forcing the search in such weather might also attract unwanted attention, even though he was disguised as a depressed drunk. He knows that one should never think others are foolish, so he had no choice but to stop his search for the time being. He reflects that this means he won't find the liquor worm soon. To be safe, he decides to start refining the moonlight goo instead. He hopes to find the liquor worm during the refinement process, but if not, this will have to be done. He muses that unexpected things always happen, and nobody can have a perfectly smooth journey in this world. Fang Yuan begins the refinement process, focusing on the precious primeval essence, the source of a goo master's strength. Goo are described as the essence of heaven and earth, holding the world's secrets and the laws of nature. As Fang Yuan tries to refine the moonlight goo, he must erase its inherent will. The moonlight goo naturally resists this attempt, feeling the danger. 3 minutes into the process, the progress is minimal, only reaching 1% to 2%. After 10 minutes, the resistance from the goo is significant, and Fang Yuan looks strained, only reaching 8% or 9% refinement. 30 minutes later, Fang Yuan stops refining because even though there is space left in his aperture, he cannot store more primeval essence. This limitation is due to his C-grade talent. He thinks that he only has 6 primeval stones left, and he cannot compare to people like Gu Yue Mo Bei or Gu Yue Kai Chen, who have family support. His C-grade talent is just too inferior to Fang Zheng's grade talent, meaning he never stood a chance in that comparison test. He wonders why he shouldn't redirect his energy to search for the liquor worm instead. He notices the rain outside has softened, suggesting it might finally stop after 3 days and nights. Just then, there is a knock, and the servant girl from before arrives with food and wine, hoping to comfort him. Fang Yuan says he is hungry and that she arrived at the perfect time. The servant girl brings in the food and wine, complimenting the smell. She boldly suggests that tonight she wishes to accompany him for a drink and even give her body to him, regardless of his grade. Fang Yuan remains calm and asks if she is still pretending. He immediately sees through her act, accusing her of trying to seduce and frame him on behalf of his uncle and aunt, suspecting others are waiting downstairs. He dismisses her appearance with harsh words about her figure. Since she has served him for many years, he decides not to kill her this time. Instead, he instructs her to go find his stupid and naive little brother. He tells her that since she wants to escape slavery, she can go tell her tale to his brother. The servant girl, realizing the danger, is shocked and tries to explain herself, crying out that she is frightened. Fang Yuan simply asks her what she is saying and if she thinks this is a game. He coldly states that her attempt at seduction is just a power play. The servant girl gulps, realizing the shift in atmosphere as Fang Yuan's demeanor darkens. Fang Yuan leans in close to her, his eyes turning fierce and demonic. The servant girl calls out in panic, saying he is hurting her. She pleads that she is scared, but Fang Yuan is past caring about her fear. He asks if she truly thought he could be killed or if she thought he was weak. The girl realizes the person before her is a real devil who is capable of killing her. As the terrifying power of Shen Gai erupts, Fang Yuan's eyes glow with an intense, demonic light. A powerful, dark force emanates from him, causing the servant girl to scream in terror. The servant girl is thrown back or recoils as the dark energy explodes around Fang Yuan. She cries out, regretting provoking such a devil. Fang Yuan tells her that since she served him for years, he won't kill her this time. He then commands her to find his stupid and naive younger brother. He says that since she wants to escape slavery, she should go tell her story to the brother. Finally, Fang Yuan simply tells her she can leave. The servant girl, utterly defeated and terrified, slowly backs away, her hands raised in a gesture of surrender or fear as the door creaks open. She retreats out of the room, leaving Fang Yuan alone once more. The main character walks through a grand entrance, thinking that the trap set for him was beautifully arranged, even better than what he remembered from his past life. He thanks his aunt and uncle for their kindness, promising to remember it deeply. He reflects that a smart person sees danger coming and avoids it, especially someone like a devil, concluding that rushing into danger without enough strength is only for a fool. After these thoughts, the character stands alone, looking out into the distance as the chapter title appears below him. The story shifts as the character enters an inn and asks the innkeeper if there are any rooms available. The innkeeper happily tells him there are rooms on the second and third floors, which are cheap and clean, explaining that the first floor is the cafeteria where guests can eat or order room service. The character asks for a nice room and also orders 2 jars of wine and 3 to 4 dishes, telling the innkeeper to return any extra money. The innkeeper agrees immediately and asks if the guest wants to eat in his room or in the hall downstairs. The character thinks for a moment and then decides he will eat in the hall. As the scene moves downstairs, the sound of chatter fills the air, showing a group of people already eating at a table. The focus is on a group of hunters eating heartily, one of whom is thinking about refining the moonlight goo, noting that with his C-grade talent, it needs many primeval stones. The hunter continues thinking that if he is lucky and the goo is not strong, 5 stones might be enough, but if it resists, he might need 8, putting him in a tough spot. He realizes that even if he finds the liquor worm, he might not have enough stones to refine it, but he must keep searching because the flower wine monk's treasure might have plenty of stones. He concludes that finding this treasure is key to solving all his problems. If he succeeds, his cultivation speed won't slow down, and he won't fall behind his peers. Suddenly distracted, the main character wonders why, after spending over a week trying to lure out the liquor worm, it still hasn't shown itself. As he ponders, one of the hunters calls out loudly to him, telling him to have another cup and praising his skill in taking down a black-skinned wild boar. The hunter insists he drinks or they will feel slighted, but the main character politely declines, saying he really cannot drink any more. The aggressive hunter then mockingly asks if the wine isn't good enough and loudly demands the waiter bring some truly good wine. The waiter, trying to be respectful but clearly cunning, warns them that the fine wine is very expensive, costing 2 primeval stones per jar. The hunters are shocked by the price of 2 stones for 1 jar of wine and immediately accuse the waiter of trying to cheat them. One of the hunters tells his brothers they should stop spending money and save the good wine for another day, as he can't drink any more. Another large hunter angrily tells him not to say that, asserting their status. The young man who ordered the wine laughs and calls them fools for shouting over something they cannot afford, telling them to keep quiet if they cannot buy wine. He then demands the waiter bring over that jar of wine. The angry hunter shouts that he will pay the 2 primeval stones right away, and the waiter quickly runs to fetch the expensive wine. As the waiter is about to serve, the main character signals for him to wait, but the waiter slams the jar down onto the table, seemingly too late for any objection. The waiter presents the jar, and the aroma of the green bamboo wine floats out. The waiter assures them he is not exaggerating, stating that this is the green bamboo wine, and their inn is the only place in the village that sells it. He urges them to smell the fragrance, and the narrative confirms the waiter was not lying. Guyue village only had 3 taverns, and they only sold common rice or muddy wine. The main character realizes he was too hasty in buying the wine and notices the waiter is quite cunning, having immediately unsealed the jar before he could object. The person who bought the wine realizes that even if he wanted to return it now, it was too late. The aggressive hunter then shouts to his brothers that the wine is good and tells them to drink as much as they want, saying it is on him today. Suddenly, the main character slams his hand down, questioning how such a small jar of wine could be enough for 6 people, daring them to buy more if they have the guts. One of the hunters, slightly intimidated, calls the main character a brat for having so many words. The aggressive hunter challenges the main character to stand up and fight him. The young man with the copper plate on his belt smiles, showing he accepts the challenge. The hunters are shocked when they realize this young man is a rank 1 Gu master, as indicated by the number 1 on his copper plate. The rank 1 Gu master taunts them, asking if they still want to fight and challenging them to do something. The hunter who issued the challenge is intimidated but then tells his group to come at him together to save him the trouble. The main character watches as the group of hunters looks terrified below him. One of the hunters rushes to bring a new jar of wine, and the main character smells it, admitting it smells good. The hunter apologizes, saying if the main character likes it, he can drink it as an apology for offending him. The main character violently smashes the new wine jar on the floor in anger. He furiously asks the hunters if they think they have the right to apologize to him, calling them rich mortals who dare to flaunt their wealth in front of him since they spent 2 primeval stones on wine. He yells at them, asking if they have any idea how furious he is and calling them foolish mortals who dare to compare themselves to him. The hunters cry out in fear that they dare not offend him. The hunter who paid for the wine cries out that offending his lord is a grave sin, and the others beg for forgiveness, offering their primeval stones as an offering to Lord Gu Master. The narration explains that the copper plate on the young Gu Master's belt signifies his rank 1 cultivation. However, the young man looks only about 20 years old, and the aura of his primeval essence shows he is only at the upper stage of rank 1. Reaching only upper rank 1 by the age of 20, starting cultivation at 15, means he has D-grade talent, which is a grade below the main character, Fang Yuan. It was likely he was just a logistics Gu Master, not even a combat Gu Master. But even so, he was more than enough power against 6 mortal hunters, showing the huge gap between a Gu Master and a mortal human. The main character thinks that with power, one stands at the top, which is the nature of this world, but then corrects himself, saying it is the nature of every world, where the big fish eat the small fish, and the small fish eat the shrimp. He concludes that this world just shows this hierarchy more openly, then addresses the younger Gu Master, telling him he has taught the mortals a lesson. The main character warns him not to humiliate these mortals further, as he would be ashamed if word got out, even if the younger man was shameless. Then, the main character walks away, telling the younger Gu Master that if he thinks he has the guts to continue drinking, he should go ahead and drink the green bamboo wine. He coldly suggests that perhaps the wine will help the younger man forget how pathetic he looks groveling before him. The group of hunters looks on in terror as the main character departs. The scene shows the shattered remains of the wine jar on the floor, with some liquid spreading around, and a small tap sound is heard. The main character, back at his table, signals to the waiter with his chopsticks. He then calmly orders the waiter to bring him a jar of green bamboo wine. The story starts by talking about a very special genius from the Gu Yue clan, who lived about 300 years ago. This young man was super talented, reaching rank 5 Gu master level early, and everyone thought he was the clan's future. He was the most famous person in the Gu Yue clan's history, known as the 4th clan head. But sadly, he died protecting his people after a big fight with another strong rank 5 Gu master, the demonic flower wine monk. Even though the 4th clan head won the battle and let the monk beg for mercy, the monk attacked him again suddenly. This made the 4th clan head kill the monk in anger, but he himself was too badly hurt and died too soon. This sad story became very famous in the Gu Yue clan, passing down through many years. In Fang Yuan's old life, about a month from this time, a heartbroken Gu master, smelling of alcohol, passed out near the village. Because of the strong smell of wine, a liquor worm showed up. The Gu master chased it and found the flower wine monk's hidden remains and his big treasure in a cave. He got the liquor worm, and his cultivation level suddenly shot up really high. The lover who left him even came back to him, and for a while, this Gu master was the talk of the village. In Fang Yuan's memory, this story seemed real, but lately, he felt like something was not right. He thought about it more these past few days while checking things, and something felt out of place. Fang Yuan reasoned that if he found the flower wine monk's treasure, he would just keep it all for himself. Why would anyone report such a huge find to the clan elders instead of keeping the gain? Everyone has greed inside, so what made that Gu master stop his greed and give everything to the clan leaders? After buying this jar of green bamboo wine, Fang Yuan only has 2 primeval stones left. If he doesn't find the treasure today, he will be in big trouble, so this is his last chance. It had just rained for 3 days and nights, washing away all the murky energy between the mountains, leaving the air super fresh. This clean air was the first reason Fang Yuan was confident tonight because it would carry the wine smell well. His 7 days of searching were not totally wasted because he confirmed the flower wine monk's remains were not in the places he had already checked. That was the second reason for his confidence. And the third reason was that green bamboo wine was the best drink in Gu Yue village. With all 3 good things happening together, Fang Yuan felt he must succeed tonight. But it failed, even with all 3 big advantages. He didn't even see the liquor worm this time. This meant his chances of success in the future would only get smaller. Now, he only has 2 primeval stones left, and he still needs to refine the moonlight goo. He could not risk anything more now. Fang Yuan thought about how life is sometimes, with a goal that looks close but is full of problems, always just out of reach. This feeling of helplessness is also what makes living interesting. He felt he would never be fast enough to catch the worm if it just flew away. The chance would only come when the worm drinks the wine, gets drunk, and slows down its flying. After some time, the liquor worm was completely drunk. Then, in the setting, Fang Yuan was seen asking for a jar of green bamboo wine from a waiter. The people around him reacted with shock and loud noises. Fang Yuan, with his long black hair, looked down seriously as this scene happened. Another man with a headband looked at Fang Yuan with a strange, knowing smile. The man gestured with his hand as he spoke to Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan's face darkened, and he stood there with his head bowed, looking very grim. The man who was speaking suddenly fell backward with a loud thump. The waiter brought the jar of wine to Fang Yuan, bowing deeply. The waiter offered the wine to Fang Yuan, addressing him as Lord Gu Master. Fang Yuan stood motionless, his face hidden by shadow. With a loud sound, the man who fell earlier hit the ground hard. The room seemed to shake with the impact. Fang Yuan then walked towards the door, which creaked open. He stepped out into the light, casting a long, dark shadow behind him. The beginning of the story shows the legend of an extraordinary genius in the Gu Yue clan around 300 years ago. This genius was already a rank 5 Gu master when young, with great potential. He was famous across Qingmao Mountain, seen as the clan's best hope and symbol of responsibility. In the Gu Yue clan's history, no one was talked about more than this fourth clan head. But sadly, he died protecting his people while fighting the equally strong rank 5 Gu master, the demonic flower wine monk. Although the fourth clan head defeated the monk and spared him when he begged, the monk turned careless and attacked him by surprise. This forced the fourth clan head to kill the monk in rage, but due to his own severe injuries, he died too soon. This tragic story has been passed down through generations as one of the most famous tales in the Gu Yue clan. Then, the story shifts to Fang Yuan's previous life, about a month from now. A drunken Gu master, sad because his lover rejected him, collapsed outside the village. The strong smell of the alcohol eventually attracted a liquor worm. The Gu master chased after the worm and found the flower wine monk's remains in a hidden cave, along with the monk's inheritance. He got the liquor worm, and his cultivation quickly improved. The lover who left him returned, and for a time, he became the most talked about person in the village. In Fang Yuan's memories, this story seemed true, but he couldn't stop feeling that something was wrong. Fang Yuan admitted that at first, he didn't notice it, but after days of checking and thinking, he felt something was off about the tale. He questioned why that Gu master, upon finding the treasure, would report it to the clan instead of keeping it all. Setting aside clan honor, everyone carries greed in their heart. So what made him ignore his own greed? What could have made the Gu master give up such a big fine to the clan's higher-ups? After buying this jar of green bamboo wine, Fang Yuan realized he only had 2 primeval stones left. He knew if he couldn't find the treasure today, he would be in serious trouble. He declared that today would be his final gamble. It had just rained for 3 days and 3 nights, washing the mountains clean, leaving the air very fresh. The clean air was the first reason Fang Yuan felt confident tonight, as it would carry the wine's aroma well. The past 7 days of searching were not a waste, as they confirmed the flower wine monk's remains were not in those previous spots. That was the second reason for his confidence. And finally, the green bamboo wine was the finest brew in Gu Yue village, which was the third reason. With these 3 things lining up, Fang Yuan felt that if he was going to succeed, it had to be tonight. But it failed after all. He did not even catch sight of the liquor worm. This meant his chances of success later would only get worse. Now, he only had 2 primeval stones left, and he still needed to refine the moonlight goo. He decided he couldn't afford to take any more risks. Fang Yuan reflected that sometimes life is like this, where one alluring goal seems so close but is full of turns and twists, always just out of reach. This helplessness in life is also the charm of living. He thought he would never be able to catch up to the worm's speed if it simply flew away. He waited for the moment when the worm drinks the wine, gets drunk, and its flight slows down. That would be when his chance would finally arrive. After a little while, the creature was completely drunk. Back at the beginning, a commotion was seen as someone demanded a jar of green bamboo wine. The people around reacted with huge shock and screaming. In the middle of this, the man with the headband seemed to be talking or reacting to the demand. Then, the long-haired figure stood with a dark aura around him. The man with the headband suddenly fell down with a loud thump, hitting the floor. A server quickly brought the wine jar to the imposing figure, bowing low. The long-haired figure, still obscured by shadow, took the wine jar. The sound of doors opening with a loud creak was heard as the figure turned and walked away. He walked towards the light of the open doors, his shadow stretching long on the tiled floor. The narrative then shifts to recount the story of the fourth clan head, an extraordinary genius in the Guyue clan 300 years ago. This genius achieved rank 5 Gu master status young, and was hailed as the clan's brightest hope for his talent. His story is the most well-known in the clan's history. Despite his tragic end fighting the demonic flower wine monk, the monk sneak attacked after being spared, forcing the clan head to kill him, but the clan head died from his own serious wounds. In Fang Yuan's past life, about a month from now, a heartbroken Gu master found the monk's inheritance after a liquor worm was attracted to his spilled wine. This Gu master's cultivation rose, and he reunited with his lover, becoming famous in the village. However, Fang Yuan felt something was off about the story's authenticity upon reflection. He wondered why someone with such a massive personal gain wouldn't keep it instead of reporting it to the clan elders, as greed usually wins. Now, with only 2 primeval stones left after buying the wine, Fang Yuan knew today was his last chance to find the treasure. He felt confident because it had just rained, making the air pure and excellent for carrying smells, and because he had searched other areas already. The third reason for his confidence was that green bamboo wine was the best in the village, and he poured it out onto a stone. The wine splashed onto the stone, and the air filled with a smoky aroma. He repeated the process, pouring the wine onto another stone, ensuring the scent spread in the fresh night air. Fang Yuan stated that this was his last attempt. He focused on a white lily flower in the grass, watching as the wine dripped onto it. The wine dripped from the flower onto a leaf below, making a splat sound as it landed. Fang Yuan watched intently, his eyes wide with focus, waiting for the worm. He heard rustling sounds in the grass, and then a cricket chirped nearby. More rustling sounds came from the bamboo grove, suggesting movement. The sound of rustling continued as Fang Yuan stayed low, hidden in the grass. He spotted a glowing object moving within a bamboo stalk. The glowing object turned out to be the liquor worm itself, shining brightly. Fang Yuan thought that if this chance passed, he would never catch the worm because it was too fast. He planned to wait until the worm got drunk from the wine and slowed down. That moment, he thought, would be his chance to strike. The liquor worm was seen inside the bamboo, and then it moved toward the lily flower. It slurped the wine from the lily flower, looking very happy and dizzy, drooling a little. After drinking, the little worm curled up in a white ball and seemed to fall asleep, surrounded by a blue glow. Then, a glowing spiritual essence swiftly emerged from the lily flower. The glowing essence moved with a swish sound, flying up into the night sky. Fang Yuan, seeing this, immediately made a move with a quick whoosh sound, diving after it. He lunged into the thick grass, trying to catch the escaping essence. The essence shot away like a streak of light, and Fang Yuan followed with another swift motion. The spirit shot past him as he lunged low, landing hard in the dirt. The liquor worm, after consuming the wine, had become completely drunk. The worm, now tipsy, was seen clinging to a large leaf. Fang Yuan watched as the worm got drunk, then he made his move with a push sound, lunging forward. The spirit essence was sucked back into the lily with a splurch sound. The dizzy liquor worm seemed to be happily absorbed back into the flower. Fang Yuan looked on with wide eyes as the event unfolded. The little worm was completely drunk, making cute, happy noises. With a swish, the essence shot out again, leaving the flower. Fang Yuan swooped in with a powerful whoosh. He moved fast, trying to grab the essence before it escaped again. The essence formed into a glowing ball, moving quickly away. Fang Yuan followed with another quick, powerful swipe. The character rushes through the dark environment with a strong wind sound all around him. He keeps moving forward rapidly, a small light effect showing near his hand as he pushes through the dense surroundings. This is the title page for Reverend Insanity, showing the main character moving through the foliage. The rustling sounds highlight his movement as he pushes past the green plants in the darkness. He splashes into water, making a loud sound as he continues his journey. He finally reaches a large waterfall and stops, realizing, so it's here. He takes a breath, a slight smile on his face as he looks at the mighty cascade of water. He stands before the roaring waterfall, looking small against its massive flow. He gazes up at the huge waterfall against the dark blue sky, readying himself. He splashes into the water again, then is shown pushing through the water curtain. He pushes past the water and enters a dark opening in the rock face. The character enters the cave, the sound of rustling leaves accompanying his entry into the gloom. A close-up shows a tear rolling down his cheek as he looks determined inside the dark place. He wonders what danger might be inside, thinking it could be a poisonous snake or gecko, or maybe a trap set by the flower wine monk. His suspicion is clear as he thinks about the flower wine monk, looking tense and ready for a fight. He remains alert and tense, expecting danger in the dark cave. He then considers the possibility that there might be nothing dangerous at all as he stands alone. A bright light shines from a crack in the dark rock, catching his attention. He looks intensely toward the light, his face shadowed but focused. A sudden thump and a loud screech sound come from the light source, indicating something is happening there. He reaches out his hand towards the light, still cautious. A soft thud is heard, and then he forcefully shoves the thing aside, moving deeper. He continues moving, noting how long he has been walking and the environment around him. With a cracking sound, he pushes through something, realizing he must be in the very heart of the mountain cliff now. He looks on with a sharp gaze, noticing some unusual plants around. He identifies some goo worms around, noting that goo creatures come in many forms, like the mineral-like moonlight goo. He touches the vines, thinking about other forms goo take, like worms, flowers, or grass. He moves quickly through the thick, root-filled area with forceful thumps. He spots a small, glowing goo hidden among the thick vines. He carefully moves closer, peeking at the small glowing goo. He successfully grabs the small, glowing creature. A close-up shows his satisfied look as he holds the goo. Suddenly, a grim skeleton figure appears, looming over him, surrounded by dark tendrils. The man with long hair confronts the skeleton, saying, "I've finally found you, flower wine monk." He reaches out to touch the skeleton, but a chilling sound warns him. A harsh warning rings out, telling him not to touch it, while the other character is shocked, thinking, "I have been followed." He starts thinking if his recent activities have attracted unwanted attention, perhaps from his uncle or even the rank 1 goo master Zhang Ya he met earlier. Countless worries and guesses rush through his mind as he desperately tries to figure out a plan. He despairs because he is only at the initial stage of rank 1 and doesn't even have a vital goo, making him practically defenseless, shouting internally, "Too weak." The flower wine monk mocks him, declaring that he has already been poisoned with the single gate poison goo, which will kill him in 7 days without its counterpart. The poisoned man then desperately offers the liquor worm goo in exchange for his life, saying he can give anything. The poisoned man begs for his life, offering his clan's spirit spring that produces primeval stones and their moon orchids, even offering to become a lifelong servant. The flower wine monk interrupts, pausing his aggressive stance as he seems to sense something. He focuses, realizing something is wrong as a powerful energy starts building up. A massive red aura explodes around the flower wine monk, accompanied by maniacal laughter, throwing the other character back. The monk calls the other person Gu Yui's so-called hero and mocks him for cultivating to rank 5 so young, yet being so pathetic. The monk continues his rant, calling the young man unworthy of the title of a rank 5 master who compared himself to the monk. The young man looks on, stating that comparing himself to the monk is like comparing dirt to someone great. The poisoned man, realizing his mistake, begs the monk to remember their clan's hospitality and spare him. The long-haired man observes that the pleading man is the 4th-generation clan leader, with elders nearby. The flower wine monk laughs scornfully at the mention of hospitality, revealing that they tried to poison him with a goo in his drink after he offered good trade deals for moon orchids. He angrily recounts how they tried to poison him, but they severely underestimated him, as he has survived under heaven known as flower wine. The monk angrily states that if they had been honest, none of this would have happened, but they only wanted to use his head for fame. He tells the clan leader that he has no one to blame but himself for his impending death, as the clan leader continues begging and offers resources and servitude. The clan leader desperately promises allegiance and service to the monk in exchange for his life. The flower wine monk dismisses the offer of an enslavement goo as too precious, pointing out that since he has the only cure for the poison, the clan leader must obey. The monk proposes a deal: 3,000 stalks of moon orchids and 3,000 primeval stones every week. He adds that he will visit periodically to collect the goods and temporarily suppress the poison, sparing the man's useless life for now. The clan leader profusely thanks the monk, but the monk cuts him off, saying he despises people who beg like dogs. The monk insults the young man again, calling him unworthy of the rank 5 master title and telling him his life depends on serving him properly. The flower wine monk lets out a loud grunt of exertion as he seems to activate something powerful against the opponent. A violent attack is launched, causing the other person to scream in pain and shock. The monk laughs, stating that everyone has the right to punish the demonic faction, and then reveals he used the Moonshadow Goo, a rank 4 goo that restricts the use of primeval sea in essence. He tells the defeated man, who must have used most of his goo in the fight, to surrender and become his servant, promising he might live if he pleases him. The younger man shouts defiantly, "To hell with you!" He launches a powerful counterattack against the monk despite the situation. The elders panic, calling the monk insane and shouting for the clan head to be avenged, while a narration explains that the Moonshadow Goo prevents the young man from freely using his primeval essence, which will eventually run out. The scene focuses on intense sound effects in blackness, showing the continuation of the fierce struggle. More intense action sounds show the ongoing life and death battle. The monk aggressively attacks the young man amidst the chaos and the cries of the onlookers. A close-up shows the young man making a hand gesture, still fighting back fiercely. The scene abruptly shifts to a peaceful bamboo forest where the long-haired character is now sitting down, reading a book titled Reverend Insanity with a small goo beside him. The character is suddenly startled, dropping the book as the small goo flies off, reacting with a loud smack and bam. The character screams in surprise as the small goo zips around dizzyingly, indicating something startled both of them. The scene starts with a violent struggle, lots of blood and chaos everywhere, showing someone being overpowered in a brutal fight. The sounds of a terrible defeat echo as the figures lie defeated and wounded on the ground, covered in blood. A heavy impact shakes the area with a loud thud, followed by a horrifying screeching sound in the background. One figure, clearly defeated, stands before a much larger, intimidating man whose presence causes a heavy, sinking feeling. The larger man, clearly the victor, shouts in anger, promising to return later for a final confrontation. He continues his enraged threats before suddenly making a swift, forceful movement away from the scene. There is a powerful whoosh sound as the victor quickly departs the area, leaving the defeated person behind. The narrative shifts to an explanation of a strange visual effect on the wall, identified as a photo-audio GUI, which records images with sound, and the chapter title is shown. The defeated person kneels before the victor, identified as Sir Flower Wine, desperately apologizing and begging for his life by reminding him of past kindness. Sir Flower Wine reveals that the victim has been poisoned by a single goo and will die in 7 days unless given an antidote, which he possesses, while the victim continues to beg. The protagonist, who seems to be the one observing these events, simply acknowledges the situation with a calm "I see." The photo-audio GUI is further explained as a one-time use item that records visuals and sound, and it seems to be emitting a red light in the dark cave. The observer reflects that in his past life, the GUI master who found this scene would have been terrified, and the elders likely kept this secret hidden to protect the truth about the Flower Wine monk. The GUI master realized taking the treasure alone was too risky because if his connection to the Flower Wine monk was discovered, the clan leaders would kill him. Therefore, the GUI master decided to report the find to his superiors, which was seen as a wise move that proved his loyalty. But the observer, Fang Yuan, thinks differently for himself. Fang Yuan thinks about how much trouble he went through to find this treasure and decides he should take everything for himself, unafraid of being discovered. He calls the past GUI master cowardly for not braving the risks for profit, while he stretches and prepares to take what is left. A loud crack sound indicates something is breaking as Fang Yuan interacts with the environment. Fang Yuan steps through the debris, and a rustling sound is heard near the skeleton of the Flower Wine monk. With a clang, Fang Yuan secures a bag containing something heavy, presumably primeval stones. Fang Yuan notes there are only 15 pieces of primeval stones and calls the previous owner an old miser while holding the bag. He considers that since the Flower Wine monk fought hard and was poisoned by Moonshadow Goo, leaving 15 stones wasn't too bad, despite the skeleton nearby. Fang Yuan continues to look around the area, rustling through more debris. The narration explains that goo creatures need food, and while some need less, this secret cave had no sunshine, so the Flower Wine monk had to cultivate the wine sack flower goo and rice pouch grass goo there to survive. However, the Moonshadow Goo eventually caused the monk's death, and after 300 years, most of his goo died too. The only things left were the photo-audio goo on the wall and the liquor worm. When the wine sack flower goo withered due to lack of food, the liquor worm had to venture out looking for wild wine sack flowers. That night, the liquor worm was attracted by the smell of green bamboo wine and came to Fang Yuan, while the photo-audio goo is noted as a one-time use item, suggesting the liquor worm is the real prize. Fang Yuan realizes the liquor worm must be the greatest gain, making the previous goo master's choice to report it understandable as the profit seemed too small for the risk. In the past life, the goo master was rank 3, and the liquor worm was only rank 1, making it almost nothing to him, but for Fang Yuan, it is precious. Yet, the clan did reward the other master generously, making Fang Yuan wonder if he should report it too. Fang Yuan realizes the true treasure wasn't just the liquor worm or the stones, but the photo-audio goo hidden in the wall, which repeats the moving image. This recording could be sold to other villages, especially the 2 other villages on Qing Mao Mountain, as it could seriously damage the Gu Yue clan's reputation. Even though the image wouldn't destroy the clan entirely, it would cause significant harm, leading Fang Yuan to reject the idea of relying on the clan. He firmly decides that in this world, relying on anyone but himself is naive, especially after what he learned in his past life. Fang Yuan leaves the scene, walking toward a massive waterfall, the sound of rushing water filling the air. He observes the waterfall, recalling that the remains were supposedly found in an underground secret cave. He questions how it could be underground when it was clearly inside the mountain wall, concluding this is why the Goo Master in his past life couldn't find it for 7 days. Fang Yuan deduces that after the clan found the location in the past life, they destroyed the wall with the goo and spread a lie to cover it up. But he declares all that is now unimportant. The flower wine monk's treasure has been unearthed and taken by Fang Yuan, and even though the result was a bit disappointing, it was understandable. The most important thing is that his main target, the liquor worm, is now his, and he also got the needed primeval stones. So next, he needs to go to the inn to refine this goo. With a vital goo, he can return to the academy, qualify for the dormitories, and borrow clan resources for cultivation, but he notes staying at the inn is costly, so he can only stay once or twice. He started with 2 primeval stones and now has 17, but even that is a small amount for a goo master. With his C-grade talent, his primeval C is only 44% full, and the rate a goo consumes primeval essence is faster than his recovery, meaning he needs external primeval stones to refine a goo. The weaker a goo's will, the easier it is to refine, but all living things have a will to live, and refining the moonlight goo would cost at least 5 primeval stones. Refining the liquor worm, which is rarer even though it's also rank 1, will cost more, between 11 and 16 primeval stones. The difficulty of refining the liquor worm is higher because it is rarer than the moonlight goo. This means that even with 17 primeval stones, refining the liquor worm would leave Fang Yuan with only about 6 stones remaining. He considers that refining it would leave him with at most 6 stones, or maybe even just 1. Fang Yuan arrives at an inn at night, looking up at the sign marked with a character for wine. The scene briefly cuts to a special thanks message for Patreon supporters, featuring an image of someone enjoying a snack while watching something. The observer, who seems to be in a relaxed setting now, grabs a handful of snacks and starts eating them noisily. The observer is now comfortably settled, watching the recorded scene of the past battle on a glowing screen while sipping a drink, clearly enjoying the review of the events. Someone forcefully knocked on the door, and a servant heard it, asking who was there. The servant saw the young lord at the door and was happy to open it for him. The servant asked the young lord if he was hungry and should order supper, but the young lord just asked for hot water to wash. The young lord was directed to his room while the servant promised the hot water would come right away. The servant then sighed, wishing he had the talent to cultivate like the master. The servant thought about how a goo master has the power to become greater than normal men, but the cost for this strength is also very high. The first big problem for a goo master is money because they need primeval stones for everything like cultivating, fighting, and refining goo. As a goo master's level goes up, they need even more resources, so without strong help, cultivation is very hard. This thinking ends as a candle is lit and the servant brings something in. The servant carefully steps and bows, bringing what looks like a package for the young lord. After the servant leaves, the young lord starts to wash himself with the hot water. He twists the cloth in the water, and then the scene shows him washing his hair. The chapter skips to the main character, Fang Yuan, resting after his bath. This is the title card page for Chapter 13 of Reverend Insanity. Fang Yuan felt happy because he finally got his hands on the liquor worm. He noted that the liquor worm is rarer than the moonlight goo. This is because the liquor worm helps increase a goo master's hidden talent. He held the little white worm in his hand. As he focused, the liquor worm began to glow with energy, and Fang Yuan's eyes lit up with power. A powerful green energy burst forth, showing the strain of this process. Fang Yuan explained that right now he is only at rank 1 initial stage, but condensing the liquor worm will help him reach rank 1 middle stage after refining the primeval essence. He thought this benefit was amazing, but he still needed to fully master the liquor worm first. Only after refining it into his vital goo will he be able to use it properly and refine his primeval essence with the best result. Fang Yuan started the refining process, causing a large surge of green energy. The liquor worm resisted strongly, with cracks appearing on its body as the energy surrounded it. Fang Yuan noted that this worm used more than double the primeval essence compared to the moonlight goo, making him determined to refine it no matter what. The intensity of the struggle caused a strong reaction, like an explosion. The scene momentarily shows the candle flickering from the disturbance. Fang Yuan continued to struggle, with dark energy swirling around him as the worm fought back. More energy flowed as he pushed through the resistance. The energy explosion caused a loud sound, shaking the room structures. Fang Yuan's face showed the strain of the fight against the goo. He realized this goo was most likely the vital goo of the flower wine monk, who was a rank 5 master. Even though the worm's grade dropped to rank 1 due to starvation, its will was still very strong, like stone. Fang Yuan knew that refining this worm meant battling the flower wine monk's lingering will, which was much harder than refining a natural goo. He calculated that refining it within a month was impossible without help, needing a rank 2 or rank 3 goo's aura to suppress the worm's will. With such help, he could double the result with half the effort. Based on this difficulty, he figured 17 primeval stones wouldn't be enough, and he would need at least 30. Even though it was troublesome, Fang Yuan was committed to refining the liquor worm, but he felt his stomach rumble loudly. He decided to eat first and then figure out how to get more primeval stones. Fang Yuan walked downstairs from his room. He sat down to eat the food served, and his younger brother immediately questioned him for staying at the inn. The younger brother was very angry, asking why Fang Yuan didn't come home the night before. The younger brother then asked Fang Yuan what he did to Shen Kui. He exclaimed that Shen Kui had been crying non-stop since she came out of Fang Yuan's room yesterday, and she cried even harder when he tried to comfort her. Fang Yuan looked at him calmly, while the younger brother looked shocked. The younger brother angrily called out Fang Yuan's name and accused him of being cruel to Shen Kui, who had served him for many years. He said he understood Fang Yuan's frustration though. The younger brother yelled that even though Fang Yuan only had a C-grade talent, it didn't give him the right to take out his anger on others, calling it unfair to Shen Kui, and he slammed the table, knocking over a bowl of rice. Fang Yuan suddenly reacted, pushing the younger brother away with immense force. Fang Yuan coldly called his brother useless and questioned why he would defend a mere servant girl over his own blood. The younger brother was stunned that he was hit for the first time and argued that he was found out to be an A-grade talent, while Fang Yuan was just C-grade. Fang Yuan dismissed his brother's words as naive, saying he couldn't blame him for being a C-grade talent, calling it heaven's arrangement. Fang Yuan then reminded his brother of all the times he had taken care of him since their parents died during hard times, like giving him his only new robe during New Year. He listed more favors, like getting him extra sweet porridge every day and protecting him when he was bullied. He said there were too many things to mention. Fang Yuan then harshly questioned why his brother dared to raise his voice and question him now over a maid, asking what he meant to him since his brother even gave up his own biological parents for an adoptive one. The younger brother was hurt and questioned how Fang Yuan could say that, mentioning how much he longed for family warmth since childhood. Fang Yuan coldly declared that from now on, they were no longer brothers, and then revealed he knew the younger brother liked Shen Kui. He offered to give Shen Kui to him for 6 primeval stones, making her his personal maid. The younger brother was confused by the offer, but Fang Yuan insisted that love is normal and he should be honest. The younger brother agreed to the exchange, but then admitted he didn't have 6 stones left. He pulled out a small bag that clattered when he squeezed it. Fang Yuan learned that one of the stones was half the size of a normal one because his brother used its essence to speed up refining his moonlight goo. The remaining 5.5 stones were all his brother had, which were given recently by their aunt and uncle. Fang Yuan took the stones and told his brother he could leave now. The brother looked terrified and started to walk away, but Fang Yuan warned him to disappear from his sight before he changed his mind. Fang Yuan's face turned dark and menacing as he issued the final warning. The younger brother quickly stepped out of the room. He then stopped at the door, looking stern. The scene shifts to outside the inn the next morning with a bright sky. Fang Yuan, back in his room, muttered that he could finally have Shen Kui rightfully as his. Suddenly, the younger brother came back running in a panic, screaming for Fang Yuan and asking where he was. He ran out of the inn, clearly looking for someone. The younger brother continued to yell in frustration outside the inn, while inside, a chibi version of Fang Yuan was calmly sipping a drink, seemingly unbothered, and shouted the younger brother's name.